Good game design happens when the developers show they care by implementing community feedback and offering to listen to their players. Bad game design happens when you refuse to implement changes the community has advocated for, or simply don't ask or listen to feedback. While this is not specific to Phantasy Star Online, PSO2, or NGS, or any game in particular, it's an overall broad spectrum that should be paid attention to. The gameplay you're seeing might change between two characters depending on how I choose to structure this video, so nobody panic. Not that you would. I play all ships, so I divvy up my time where I want to be the most, or where my presence is required for Alliance duties. That being said, this game needs someone who's unafraid to be critical. Most creators for this game are so afraid of losing their official creator titles that their videos just become glorified, "Hey, this fashion scratch is cool, let's talk about it." It's fine to express that you like something or how to go about crafting gear. We need more of that gear part, because what other resources are available to players to help them with their loadouts and gear? Regardless, I'm not here to be as critical as the last video on this game. Instead, I want to offer a little praise while expressing the things that we need to be talking about more if this game, really the franchise, wants to survive. I mentioned last video that I had no idea when the pre-Vael fight story had dropped or if it was taken over by Vael. If that doesn't say something about the sheer lack of actual content and effective storytelling in this game, I don't know what will. I've been playing this game since the Rotem region introduction, where you could fill a Rotem block with just people watching Nadara's concerts and spamming the barrel roll and bird symbol arts. God, I really miss those days. I miss the people I used to play with and the push to get us out to go and explore the world. We haven't had the giant mutants since fall 2023, I think. Still their grace recovery since the start of 2024, and that's just to name a couple of the things that were cool, that forced players to explore the world. There's nothing like that anymore. Instead, we get comments chosen during the headlines that are about reducing the eating animation for quick food, or questions about augments that clearly state what they do yet get asked about their function anyways, taking up slots for useful community accepted questions that could be used instead. Well, not an imperative thing, why can't we have hairstyle colors when we save looks or swap between them like we do? This is something players have wanted for years, and every headline, I kid you not, I eagerly wait for that question to pop up, but it never does. I'm shaking my head, but let's be positive for a while.
Yeah.
NGS has given me so much. An online family, new friends, experiences, memories, and laughs. I've never played a game with so much potential in my life. Like, I glowed Wuthering Waves up last video, and that's because it's a good game. But it's not an MMO, not like Phantasy Star Online. As much as I love WoWa, I love NGS more because it is an inherently social game, and Sega has done a phenomenal job at creating a social atmosphere that is unlike any other game out there right now. I was overtly negative about idling in the game last video, and I still feel very strongly that we need other features to aid in that burnt out, I need something else to do in this game feeling. If you want more suggestions on that, I'm more than happy to have that conversation and spitball ideas with anyone. I actually made a post on Twitter, now X, about this last year before I kind of stopped using the account, but it's true. I am passionate about this game and I want it to succeed. And now, with the dust on Vael having settled for the last 2 weeks, I should commend Sega for actually sending the story in a direction that finally makes you question just what Alpha really is, aside from a glorified training ground for ARCs to defeat the Starless. And thank God I recorded one of my first experiences with the cutscene after beating Vael for the first time. There is so much mystery and potential for this game to expound upon that I don't know where the game is headed. I can't praise this game without mentioning its flaws, and those of you who turned out to the first video on this game, thank you, but you probably know where this is headed. The whole International Arcs Defender chapter, the latter part of 5, or the early part of 6, again, I can't really remember anymore, was awful.
This is not okay. This needs to stop now. This is
What was the point of Manon using a strange power when those who play Tact or Force already know it's just a compound technique? That was a lame attempt at creating depth in the story, especially having her overclock and then having us, the player, hunt for Lamina sign. Moreover, running around and learning about the crystals on the southern end of Mr. Woods and Canveris, or the strange gravity in Rotem, was of no benefit to the story and has yet to reappear as a meaningful piece to the story. What about these things is important, and how does it tie into the story, the gameplay, the overarching plot? I understand part of this was for character dynamics, and to showcase the developing bond between the player and Aina and Manon, but this relationship has been rather lackluster. Still, it's appreciated that the characters have shown growth and continue to show growth. As a suggestion for the T2 players, can we please stop using the T1 motions in the story cutscenes? It just doesn't look right and is at times a little cringy. Certain animations could also avoid inadvertent pantsu shots. I'm not trying to flash myself or other players, because there are some quirky individuals who play this game.
You are a sad, strange little man, and you have my pity. Farewell.
Yes, it's more work, but 90% of the cutscenes are just simple body language. I would love to see this be a change made. It would help with immersion. I just can't stop cringing during cutscenes as a T2 with T1 animations. This is a major immersion breaker. Speaking of breaking, can we talk about how NGS teased the next season of a certain scientific railgun with a magical index collab? If you don't get the reference, Toma's ability is called Dress Break, where he has the unfortunate power of removing any clothes he comes into contact with. I'm a big Railgun Index fan, and the insert song from the last season at the end of the first arc is one of my favorite songs, so I really appreciate just having this collab. Thank you for that, Sega. I mean it. Alright, so back to Vael. I know the main complaint about this urgent quest is the heavy reliance upon Mars, but I truthfully don't mind it all that much. The issue that probably goes a little more unnoticed, however, is the 1 to 2 second delay when using rest assign or reverse assign. This has caused a lot of unnecessary incapacitations alongside the unpredictability of Mars' ability to negate attacks. I'm not sure if this is an all-ship matchmaking thing or inputs not reaching the actual game server in adequate time, and honestly, I'm not sure much can be done about it, as it seems like it's more of a server issue than anything, though it could be an engine issue. Before I move on, the idea of having multiple characters all give a buff to the player is awesome, like Darkfall's Aegis, but it's the same buff for each character. Like, come on now. Anyways, the game uses Enlighten for its lighting and other visuals. Engines like Unreal Engine and Unity also use Enlighten, but the overall game engine being used is just a modified version of the base PSO2 engine made for NGS. It's for this reason, one of them anyways, that it's of my opinion base game is holding NGS back. Vael is the coolest thing NGS has done since Darkfall's Aegis, and that was an urgent quest I almost never tired of, mostly because you had room to run, but I digress. Vael is cool, but the cutscene after you finish the fight when you leave the ship seems strangely low res. For such a large-scale game as NGS is, I almost have to wonder if resources are being diverted for something else. If we, again, factor in the declining player numbers on Steam and block population gauge and block transfers, surely Sega is aware of the declining player numbers. With the forecast drop in revenue last year, yet a massive budget boost they showed off during an investors meeting last year, is there something else in the works for the PSO franchise? I think it's a stretch to say Sega is moving on from NGS and allocating resources towards something else, but I can't say it's impossible either. I mean, for those who remember the headlines where they actually apologized to the players for the game not being in the state they wanted it to be in, it leads me to believe they're either preparing for an overhaul of NGS or are getting things ready for the next MMO, RPG, or PSO title. Had we not received this scene during the Vael cutscenes, I wouldn't be saying this.
Don't give in. The world to come is going to need you.
But if we talk story, chapters 5 and 6 were it for episode 2 compared to 1 through 4 for episode 1. Everyone anticipated a disembarkation of Halva to take the fight to the Starless themselves. But if Vael was the overlord and is now dealt with, what does that leave us with? Not a whole lot. We all expected to leave Halva to head for another planet with new biomes. That didn't and hasn't happened. If you've reached the climax of the story, what are you left with? The following action and eventual conclusion of the story, but that's only if you've already hit the climax of the story. The remaining starless don't seem to pose a major threat, and the production of dolls isn't nearly the same level of serious as the starless. So what are we left with? A strange figure in the depths of outer space that saved us from drifting off into the cosmos eternally? A twist to the story could really throw everyone for a loop if we find out Sepheto and Vael were perhaps working together, and that the starless are actually fleeing rather than attacking. But that theory can be disputed when you think about Vael's actions and voice lines. I mean, I have to hand it to the writers, the story has been overly predictable from the start, but the latest Vael story edition does finally leave room for speculation. The game can have all the AC scratch tickets and grindy content it wants all day, but at the end of the day, story is what the players want, and the influx of returning players proves that. Ships 1 and 2 saw the largest rebound, while 3 saw modest gains, and 4 stayed about as dry as it has been since the letdown version 2.0 was upon release and up to its current implementation. Briefly, version 2.0 was touted as this major expansion and update to the game with the introduction of the Starless, yet all we really got out of it were impossible to earn weapons and creative space. A revamped personal quarters from base game. Game development is tough. Take it from the person who's had first-hand experience making games from scratch, trying to work in all of the code, character models and animations, and various other art assets. With a game the size and scope of NGS, of course there are going to be hiccups. The developers even admitted as much, but that's not what bothers me. Like I said in the introduction, good game design happens when you listen to the community, even more so when you play your own game. Like, the amount of silence that we receive from the developers and official community channels is actually appalling. Not even the official PSO2 Discord moderators look at the server anymore. They've either moved on or just don't care. The social media managers for the game's socials have also kind of given up. Posts aren't as engaging anymore, and there's even less interaction now than we had 2 years ago. Yet there's more stuff than ever to leverage. If you truly care about your game and your community, I would hope anyone with official ties to the game, scouring the internet for NGS related content, stumbles across this video, this section in particular. You cannot build or maintain a community if you fail to engage with the audience that's keeping your game alive and putting money into the game. Guilty as charged here, but I'm serious. Let's point fingers at Call of Duty real quick. Notice how with every Infinity Ward game since Ghosts, player numbers have plummeted and poor design choices plague the game. If you've played Modern Warfare 2019 and the MW2 reboot, do you recall how Infinity Ward refused to make Dead Silence a perk and instead chose to keep it as a field upgrade? A fan-favorite perk lost to the loud ping of the Dead Silence field upgrade that alerts everyone around you to where you are and what you're doing. And Infinity Ward, you know what? Do you know what Infinity Turd's response to the backlash was? Essentially, a middle finger in the players' faces with a big fat F you, we don't care about your opinions. This game is not that, and Sega does, albeit in strange ways, show that they at least care enough for the game to survive. But these patch notes are insane. Why are there so many bugs and glitches every update? Like, this is something I'd expect from Call of Duty, not a Japanese MMO. The entire Japanese culture is centered around honor, and this many bugs and glitches doesn't exactly scream honorable to me, but, in all caps too, at least we are being made aware of these issues and not gaslit into thinking we're actually a bunch of idiots. That's another slight at Call of Duty and their erroneous blood splatter BS they tried to pull on us in Black Ops 6. My, how the great Treyarch of old has fallen. Anyways, there really is a lot to like about this game, and the same day I'm writing this script, I'm reminded of how people just want to play this game without all of the complications and dramatics. I had a lovely evening talking with a recruit to my Ship 3 alliance, and it was so humbling. We forget that this game, while lacking actual content for most players most of the time, is still a social hub. Its primary purpose these days is to bring people together, and we forget about that. Sometimes it's fun to dance in a line or hang out under the shade trees in Central City. But don't mistake this for the fact that that's pretty much all you can do when you're burnt out. I just wish we had more incentive to get out into the world and explore it more again. Do you know how fun it was to fill an exploration sector with 32 players all hunting the same giant mutants? Yeah, that was a fun time in Retem. I look back on that fondly. Even the initial implementation in Stia way back during its first February it was out, I believe. The story needs a lot of work, and is the most disappointing out of everything this game has to offer with predictable and surface-level characters. But it could be worse. We could be a silent protagonist. Oh, wait. All jokes aside, I really do enjoy this game. Even when I'm not feeling well, I log in because I have people to talk to about the things going on in my life who will listen, and I offer the same ear in return. The family-like bonds this game creates is unlike any other, and the players who actually work to make it a good place for everyone deserve recognition. House Party on Ship 2 gets my full endorsement. I love these people to death, but it'd be nice if our Alliance leader were around a little more often. All that to say, there are good people who play this game and inspire others to be leaders as well. People who will take up the torch and guide other players when they need help in and out of the game. I may seem critical, but it's because I love the game. I don't want to see it fail. We're only at this point because no one chose to speak up when these problems were only minor issues a couple years ago. It's time for people to voice their opinions about this game instead of glazing it all the time. Thanks for watching, and I really hope someone actually listens to these videos.